Joined here now by Willie Walsh, Chief Executive of British Airways. Willie Walsh, you've great experience of working in Ireland and now as Chief Executive of British Airways, you probably have a global outlook on where things are going. Is there anything from this forum that you're seeing which will lead to this kind of revitalisation of the Irish economy that people are looking for?
I think so. I think one of the things that's coming out of this, and certainly one of the things that I've noticed, is a sense of confidence. You know, I know people have been knocked back by what has happened, but there is good confidence about the ability to recover. And I think the true test will be, you know, not how bad things were, but how well can we pick ourselves up and how well can we repair the damage that was done. And I think there's good reason to feel confident that that can be achieved.
Now, I guess the airline industry is a real barometer of how things are in the economy. What are you seeing in terms of, in your position as Chief Executive of British Airways, globally, what are you seeing?
Well, we're seeing really good figures at the moment. The traffic figures that we reported recently showed a 9.3% increase in premium traffic. Now, international premium traffic is usually a very good barometer of international trade. So when you see September figures up by 9.3%, that's a very healthy performance. We did, however, caution that October was looking a bit softer. My concern is that the underlying economic environment is still okay. It's not great, but that the sentiment is so negative that it is dragging us down. And I think that is a real concern. When I talk to business people, they tell me they're happy with the performance of their individual business, but they're very concerned about the future. And that's preventing them, or at least causing them to pause when they consider investment and spending money. So I think there is a real risk that we're going to drag ourselves down because of a lack of confidence.
Do you think that there's anything that Ireland can do to improve access to Ireland, or any of those sort of logistical things which are very necessary for an island economy?
Well, it hurts me to say this, but I'm pleased from an Irish point of view that Emirates are now flying in, or plan to fly in from Dubai. Ireland's had the benefit of the direct connection from Abu Dhabi with Etihad. These are two big competitors of mine, but that provides a new opportunity, both in terms of tourism links. You've got some very wealthy people in the Middle East who are looking to destinations like Ireland. They're not looking for the weather. Sunshine is not what they go for. So there's an opportunity there. But it also gives Ireland an opportunity to develop stronger trade links. And the reality of it is, you do much more trade where there is direct connectivity. Where you have a direct international flight, you're likely to do much more trade in that situation. So Ireland should build on that opportunity, and hopefully new opportunities will be made available as well.
Now, British Airways is in the middle of a big merger. The industry is obviously going through an awful lot of changes. Do you think any of those changes will affect how the airline business in Ireland is structured?
The industry is consolidating. I believe that's a positive for the industry. I think we've seen some very good examples of it recently. Our merger with Iberia has been working very well. You've seen some good evidence of it in the US domestic market. Aer Lingus, I think, is performing reasonably well in the circumstances. I think credit to Christoph Müller. He's done a good job there. I don't think there's any risk to the future of Aer Lingus in the short to medium term. I think longer term, there is this question as to where Aer Lingus can go. As a niche carrier, there's a space that they can occupy. But long term, I don't see much prospect for growth, and that clearly is a challenge for everybody.
Now, one of the strategic decisions that the government is mulling is whether or not it should sell its stake in Aer Lingus. Do you have any view on that?
Well, I said at the beginning they should never have held on to it. So my view has always been that the state doesn't need to have a stake in the airline, and selling it, I think, would be a positive development.
Would British Airways be interested if it came on the market?
Well, what I've said is we're not looking to invest. I've seen comments from Christoph Müller say he would prefer that it isn't a trade buyer. But the reality of it is, we've heard discussions about this for some considerable time. I think there is one issue that they will need to address, and that is the concern about the pension deficit. That is a drag on their business. I think the fact that there's been speculation around the government selling the stake and Ryanair selling their stake, but the share price has not moved. It's still, broadly in the 65-cent range, tells me that there's nobody looking to acquire Aer Lingus, and I think that's because of the concerns and the doubts around the liability associated with the pension deficit.
If there was one thing to come out of today's Global Irish Economic Forum that you think could help the economy, what would that be?
Well, I think there are two things. The first thing is the government has got to continue with the plan to address the costs. So I know this austerity label is not one that people like, but that has got to be completed. You cannot give up halfway through when you're doing well, and I think there is a view that the government is performing well. They've got to see it through to the end. That will be a disaster if that work goes undone. And the second thing is, I think there's good reason to be confident that jobs can be created in the future if these fundamental issues around the cost of doing business in Ireland, the attractiveness of Ireland, if they can be addressed. I think we can recover a lot of the ground that was lost, and we can start generating good jobs again.
Willie Walsh, Chief Executive of British Airways, thanks very much.